2/3 of it. That top end. Don't walk around that up there. Big and it's slippery. Messing up my load. Okay?
Yeah, he values that more.
Other than that, I just take your time, try not to run around, especially in the casemates and stuff, because they get a little slick due to the moisture. So keep yourself safe at all times, you know. But enjoy yourself, okay? This is Mr. Joe Yobro. He's going to give you a tour and explain everything about Fort Pike. I would, but he likes to talk about it.
All right, thank you all. Okay, again, welcome to Fort Pike. And we'll start the tour by explaining a little bit. We're going to go back about 2,000 years ago. And this site was a Native American site. And it had a mound about 3/4 of a mile to the west of here. And that's where the site was. On August 1699, the Indians explored the Lake Pontchartrain Basin, and they camped on that site. And he named it Petit Quill, which is French for little shells. And they also camped at Highway 11 and I-10 by Irish Bayou. And he named that site Point of Birds, because in his journals he talked about how beautiful the vegetation was there. Nobody touched this area for like 94 years or so until 1799, when the Spanish governor of the Louisiana Territory ordered a fort to be built. So he built the first fort in the Fort Pike complex, and he named that fort Fort Petit Quill. That's the fort was here on site for the Battle of New Orleans. Fort Petit Quill and Fort St. John and Bayou St. John. There was a major battle on Lake Borgne, just about 9 miles from between the British fleet and the U.S. fleet. Of course, the U.S. fleet lost the battle. That gave the British control of Mississippi Sound and Lake Borgne, and actually Lake Pontchartrain. And they did make several minor attempts to take Fort Petit Quill, but they weren't successful with it. So that's why the British went up Bayou Bienvenue and into Chalmette, and that's where the battle took place. Fort Pike was constructed, when construction began in 1818, after the War of 1812. President Monroe, James Monroe, was Secretary of State when the War of 1812 broke out. And he saw Washington, D.C. get sacked and burned by the British troops. So when he became president, he swore that would never happen again to the United States. So he initiated his coastal defense plans, which was the construction of fortifications on the Gulf Coast and the East Coast and the Great Lakes. Fort Pike is the third phase of the fortification plan. And the fort was designed by Simon Bernard. Simon Bernard was an aide-de-camp to Napoleon. And after the Napoleonic Wars, the U.S. contracted him to design and build forts here in the U.S. He stayed in the United States for 16 years designing and building forts, and he went back to France and then he passed away. Let's walk down this a little bit. These are early U.S. cannons. These were founded between 1821, 1822. And the markings on here, all these markings mean something. Like this is a proof mark, and this it has 2 proof marks. There's one here. Oh, that one has 2 proof marks. This one has 1. But it has 2 cannon numbers. And what happened was, when the U.S. began firing their own cannons, excuse me, they were smooth bore. And what happened when they would fire the cannonball, when it would fire, it would travel out so far, and it would veer to the left or it would veer to the right. So they learned how to right-hand or left-hand bore the barrels of the cannons. These cannons were sent back to the foundry and rebored. With the right-hand or left-hand bore, the cannonball spins when it's fired, and it goes straight and it gets its target. Excuse me. These cannons were founded in the Columbia District, and it was James Mason was the owner of the foundry. These cannons weigh 7,560 pounds, if I remember correctly. And they have a range of 1.5 miles. So they can definitely reach out for questions. And these 4 cannons came from Fort Livingston on Grand Terry Island. And they were bought up here around 1936, 1937. The state purchased Fort Pike from the federal government in 1935. And Fort Pike is the first state park in the system. So it's pretty old, and it's been around a while. But getting back to the construction of the fort, Fort Pike was designed by Simon Bernard. It took 4 years, a little more than 4 years to construct Fort Pike. Construction began in 1818, and Fort Pike and Fort McComb, sister fort, wasn't completed until 1827. There were several reasons why that happened. One was we had several hurricane events during construction, and the big factor was the contractors, Peter Morton and James Bennett, around latter part of 1822, 1823, James Bennett stole all the money from his partner. So it left Peter Morton with no funds to complete construction. So he was put in jail in Covington, Louisiana, St. Tammany, and he had a heart attack and died. So the War Department stepped up and they issued some security bonds to complete construction of Fort Pike and Fort McComb. When it was all done, the contract called for a cost of $400,000. It was a little bit over $1 million for each fort to be constructed. Kind of sounds like our politicians today, So, but after the fort was completed, there wasn't any activity at the fort for several years until the removals from the Seminoles. The Seminoles were stationed here in both Indian Wars. The Seminoles. Chief Jumper was prisoned here and he died here. And there was a cemetery by Fort Petite and Phil, and that's where he was buried. The burials were removed around 1878, 1880 due to erosion because of coffins were popping up. So everybody was exhumed and were reinterred in the Chalmette battlefield. So let's walk in a little bit. During the Civil War, there were no major battles at Fort Pike. January, gotta remember this, January 3rd, 1861, Governor Moore ordered all the forts and armies seized in the state of Louisiana. So they sent out the Confederate Continental Guard to seize Fort Pike. There was a 14-day standoff because this ordnance sergeant was in charge of Fort Pike at the time. He didn't want to surrender Fort Pike. So he buried 200 explosives in back of the citadel. They're still buried there today. He was going to blow up the fort. So on January 14th, he finally decided to go ahead and surrender the fort to the Continental Guard. The Continental Guard came in, they lowered the U.S. flag. They made their own flag. It was a white tablecloth. They painted a star and a pelican on it. The Continental Guard occupied Fort Pike for about another 14 days, and then Company A, it was Major General Henry A. Clinch and 400 Confederate troops. They occupied Fort Pike until April 1862, when Farragut's fleet took over Fort Jackson and Fort St. Phillips down in Plaquemine. Clinch and his troops were ordered to evacuate, so they burned down the second story of the citadel and all the wooden buildings. They crashed the fort up, and they spiked all the cannons. There's a cannon and a motor, 24 pounds, that they threw off with a barbette. They never did remove it. It's still there. After that, the fort lay dormant until May, I think it was May 4th, 1862, when Captain Joseph D. Haven and the USS New London and the USS Calhoun, they docked at the boat dock here. He took possession of Fort Pike, and they raised the U.S. flag over Fort Pike again. Fort Pike was occupied by the Union troops until the end of the Civil War. The first African-American governor in the state of Louisiana served at Fort Pike, PBS Pinchback. He was the captain of the Corps d'Afrique. It was all African troops that occupied Fort Pike, Fort McComb, Fort Jackson, and Fort Massachusetts on Ship Island. They took troops, Corps d'Afrique, from Fort Pike and Fort McComb to fight in the Battle of Fort Hudson. And Pinchback remained captain of the Corps d'Afrique until September 1863. He put in a commission for his commission in the U.S. Army. And General Nathaniel Banks denied his commission because he was black. So he resigned from the U.S. Army then. Pinchback went on to be an attorney, and he also fought for civil rights for Africans in the United States military. He is the first Rosa Parks, because back in the day in New Orleans, they had streetcars for whites and streetcars for blacks. He would always ride the one for the whites. So he did a lot for especially veterans and black troops. Let's see, Fort Pike remained a base of operations for the USS Calhoun and the USS New London. They operated in Lake Pontchartrain, Lake Bourne, and Mississippi Sound. They were sent to the Battle of Sardine Pass and also the Battle at Galveston Island. There were never no real major battles here. No one really got shot or killed here during the Civil War. There was a cemetery by the old fort. They had 32 burials in that site, and like I said earlier, those were removed into conversion. Fort Pike and Phil, by the way, they had conversion problems since the 1850s. P.T.G. Beauregard, General Beauregard, was stationed here then, and he constructed a second story on the citadel, and he made renovations over at Fort Pike and Phil, and they turned that into a hospital. Let's see, who else was here? Well, we had Chief Jumper, like I said earlier, the Seminoles were in prison here during the removals. And back in '08, the Oklahoma band of Seminoles came and they dedicated that plaque to us over there. We had a big ceremony for that. Back in August last year, when we had the meeting here for FEMA for restoration, the Florida Seminoles came over, and they're involved in what goes on here because they were here, because of their history. And so, you know, everybody's got a concern in what happened to restoration. So hopefully we can get something inclusive going. Yeah. Let's go on up on the barbettes. These are called barbettes, and each one of these placements was a cannon. There's a cannon mounted, could have been 32, 24, 12, whatever. This is the original flagpole socket. We wanted to know what a flagpole socket was. So look at the blueprints. Came up here. Dirt over it. So we dug here and found the original plate for the sign. They wasn't supposed to put that board there, but they did. But it was pretty cool to find that because a lot of things like that disappeared, you know, through the years. Just killed a couple of sketches. So that was pretty nice. We can walk around this way.
The flag's not flying?
Yeah, they took it down, but we might pick it up later and get all the little ceremony. Take it down to the
Really?
the state, they want to throw it. Here you can see Lake Pontchartrain a little better. Who remembers the lighthouse used to be there? Y'all remember the lighthouse?
No.
The lighthouse was constructed in 1855, and the only lighthouse where a lighthouse was shot and killed during the Civil War. So we don't know if the veterans killed him or Union killed him, but we found him dead like 2 days later in the lighthouse. So that was pretty cool there. This is one of the bastions that's going to be repaired. There's a huge hole. And when we go down on the parade ground down out there in front, you can see the this area here, this is where the officers' quarters were. Here's on the top here. They had cisterns for drinking water, fresh water. Biological site, 16 OR 38 is the site number. Zone 16, Orleans Parish, number 38. The reason why we won't do an excavation here is because through the years it's been disturbed so much. In other words, things have been moved around, So if we do a dig, all we get is artifacts, but we can't really see how they got there or why they're there or anything like that. And she understands, her mom was an archaeologist, so she knows what I'm talking about. You know, and we can get artifacts or replicas for like the museum purposes, you know. And if you do go to Fontainebleau to visit the center, I don't think it's open either right now, but they have our dugout. Back in the 70s on the Native American site here, Petit and Quill, they excavated the dugout, and it was in the museum here until Katrina had come along, and then they took it out after. That was about the only thing that's left in the museum. We had original letters from both Confederate and Union soldiers that were stationed here down the Civil War. We had different size shots, different size bullets, and that kind of thing on display. We had uniforms. We lost all of that, you know, different period uniforms. When the fort was first opened up to the Civil War. We had some new ones done, but we don't use them, so they're stored. But hopefully we can get the museum back up and running in a couple of years ago. Try to, you know, accumulate some more artifacts. Let's see, let's go down and we'll talk about the Citadel and its purpose.
What is it?
It's the fort. Yeah. All right, this is called the Citadel. Now, this is where the troops slept. They lived here. They cooked in here. When this was first constructed, I get it out of the side. It was constructed single story, like you see it now. In the 1850s, when Beauregard was here, he constructed a second story onto it. And again, the Confederates brought it down before they evacuated the fort in April of 1862. What's going on here? This was the museum. Again, this is where the troops slept. They have two fireplaces. They're cooking here. Trying to stay warm in here in the winter and trying to stay cooking here in the summer. You can imagine the humidity and the mosquitoes and the gnats and the flies and the snake whatever wanted into the fort. There are records in military affairs and archives at times where the fort was inundated with 2 or 3 feet of flood water for months at a time. So you can imagine the living conditions were really harsh. And a lot of troops and even officers that were stationed here would stay here for several months, and they wanted to go. They didn't want to stay here any longer. So the living conditions were really bad for everybody. And the Citadel in Fort Pike, and you've been there, you haven't been there.
Fort Pike? No.
Okay, well, you can see more where everything was on the walls. It's more intact than where Fort Pike Citadel is. But they had 2 rows of bunks, and you can see where they were bolted to the wall. These windows were for the troops to stick rifles out and fire at the enemy. In other words, if the fort would have been overrun, overtaken, they would have retreated to the citadels, and this would have been the point of the last stand. But again, there was no major battle that ever took place here. Yeah, they were prepared. Oh yeah. And by the way, the fort is rounded off. It's not a square shape, star shape. And the reason it's done that is because its proximity to the Regulars and Fort Pike to the shell. Because it's round. But actually, there's more cannons on this property. So let's walk into the next one. Got some other features.
You were doing it.
And up here you can see the burn marks where the fire was. When it burned out, dark spots. You see, every 5 feet 8 inches there was a post here. One of the things that we're all confused about is the mortar and the shell on the roof, and it's on top of Corvettes on the roof on the fort. And all the forts have in Louisiana. And one of the things that we can't figure out is they got shells, like clam shells and mortar. And the indigenous in the Lake Pontchartrain Basin they use that system in order to construct something that they wanted to keep for a long time, wanted to stand. So we're trying to find out how the military found out about that type of construction. Did they get it from the indigenous, or is it something that they just came up with on their own? And the Mayans used the same concept down in Mexico as well. But it helped to seal the roof on a fort like asphalt would be used today with gravel. So that's basically what it is.
So like crayons and mortar.
Yeah.
Clams and mortar.
Crayons and mortar. It helps seal the roof to keep it from leaking. And, So it's really cool to see how these, yeah, there's a name on it. Yeah.
So the citadels were like the keep in a castle. The middle part where the last fight.
Right, last stand. Yeah. This is where they would have retreated to.
So the second bunker served as resting places for the rifles up there.
Right, they were, let's see, it would be here. If I remember right, I think they were down here. There was a row of bunks at this level, and I think there was a row of bunks at this level. I have to look on the photographs.
Because it looks like something was screwed in there.
Yeah. Well, we had several movies made here through the years, and they bought, well, they weren't supposed to put anything in the walls, but they do anyway. You know, when they did G.I. Joe 2, we were running through here like crazy. They were
the torch is gone. Yeah, I don't know where the torch is at.
Yeah, torch, all that's been packed up. Man.
Oh, it's been packed up?
Yeah, all that's going to Fort Hudson. But, let's walk this way. We got a couple of more things to look at. I think we lost some of those.
They could bake crawfish.
Okay, this is where they made the beignets.
Ah, there you go.
No, this is a bakery, and you can see the oven here.
That's the
Yeah, that's the chimney, went out the top. And there's my archaeologist.
Here.
Yeah. Okay. If you notice here, what do you see in this marble? You look at it. Here, and here, what do you see?
I see coal.
Yes. It looks like he had like a camera attached to the wall here, because it wasn't more straight line. So they made bread and wine, and you set it up on the counter, and the troops would come in.
One at a time.
You can imagine how hot it must have been in the summertime in here baking bread. So we figured that he got up like maybe at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning and came and started baking, and he had on his bread baked before it got too hot. Okay, guys, this is the black. Watch your head.
Hey, don't walk into that. Don't let me.
Yeah, guys, don't go in the mud. Well, they're already in the mud.
Yeah, you're late on that one. Don't worry, we're walking in the dry car.
Yeah, try to stay out of the mud, guys.
Oh boy, Mom's gonna kill me. What did you got saying over here?
All right, this is the blacksmith shop. This is where they would have done all the iron work at, on cannons, maybe, well, they didn't have too many wagons out here, everything was always boats. But they would have made all their iron needs here, maybe gun parts and that kind of thing.
Is that where the smoke to go?
Right, that was where the chimney was for the furnace. When the fort was first constructed, this wasn't the blacksmith shop, because they had a cannon mounted here. And sometime after construction, they made it into a blacksmith shop. For a while there, out by the door on the parade ground, we were finding all kinds of metal fragments in there. We haven't found anything for the last couple of years though. So, it looked like when he was gone, he would clean out his furnace and he'd dump everything out by the door there in the parade ground. And the bath and the restrooms were in the moat on this side of the fort.
Oh, there's brick in there.
Why was there no bricks in there? There's a mud.
Next time, I'm gonna bring my own.
I remember going there as a kid back in the
I go to the
60s,
field.
the bricks were gone. So it could have been somebody plundering the fort through the years. You know, going there looking for maybe cannonballs or something like that. These are the plaques here for the I don't remember what this was. You remember what this casemate was, Pat?
Going in here now?
Didn't it have, I mean, I don't know the casemate offhand. All I remember was the Seminole plaques right there.
Is there mud in this one?
You think this could have been a magazine?
Maybe.
It kind of looks like it's on the
Yeah, there's no way
calcium. What's happening is the water seeping through the roof, and it's a chemical reaction with the water. The water has calcium in it.
I've seen it everywhere. I'm like, what the heck is this stuff?
Yeah, it's stalactites.
I was
Like,
hoping.
look at those up there.
Yeah, the stalactites. They're stalactites. And the little ones on the ground. You said stalactites. That.
I think it might have been used as a magazine room.
Probably.
It's got the same set up on the door.
This might have been iron doors in case something blew.
And by the way, even though Fort Pike and Fort Pike was constructed at the same time, there's differences between the two forts.
Different contractor?
No, same contract until James Bennett ran off with the money.
That's my point.
Yeah, but for some reason or another, they designed Fort McComb different. It has more smaller magazine powder rooms between the casemates. I got to show you my prints of the over there. And you know, it's like one of the bigger magazine powder rooms. They have a drain coming out the wall right by the entrance to the magazine powder. Can't figure that out because you wanted to keep your gun powder dry. You don't want to have no water.
Maybe it was water for the soldiers that were in there. Maybe they were
Well, it's a drain though. And the drains still work in this fort. It's 190 years old or so.
I don't think that's the magazine, because 2 doors down, that's a magazine.
This one too?
Hey, maybe it's a storage room for the bakery. You know, the grain and everything.
Further down here, which one is that?
That's Fort McComb.
This is the
It's a
magazine.
64th floor. It's a little bit smaller. And another thing, if you do the math on the citadel, if you stretch them out, they won't fit in the parade. Yeah, that was pretty cool. I found that out. So
Yeah. How come they never did anything with that one down there?
we are. You know, every year the budget got cut.
Yeah.
You didn't get down there when we were in there?
No.
I spent, you know, Victoria, that's what she got angry about because I spent all my time there knocking it out and looking at everything and trying to understand what was going on, you know?
Yeah.
Because there's nobody really made any maps. Very little blueprints and maps on Fort McComb. So,
Well, I mean, we never went that. I remember it like you when I was a kid. We used to come up here and catch a little filler crab.
right, yeah. Roll down the hill out there,
Yeah.
That was always pretty big, you know?
This these are the casemates where you had Snake Eyes chasing around the other GI Joes or whatever.
Right.
Or whatever, I don't know.
And, what was her name? I forgot her name.
There's a lot of water down there.
Oh,
So, like, this is the ones they primarily used for the GI.
Yeah, going down that way.
yeah,
So
you can switch to it. Y'all just watch your steps, all right? If y'all want to walk around to the left, you can, or you can scooch through.
watch your step, watch your head.
Yeah. No, the kids are like that.
Yeah.
You put them in the front yard.
Guys, it's like a maze down here. Clear?
That's pretty cool. I like this little city place.
Yeah. These are the scenes that you see out of the movie. So
And how they look. This gives you an idea of what the guys and the cave, you see the outer walls on attached to the inner walls. It's really present back there. In fact, it looks like it opened up more. Well, I guess